We are live, brother.
Awesome. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Technology, it helps us
Love it.
to be places and do things. Everybody, Coach Drew here, Dr. Andrew Blackwood, and I am here with my friend Greg Musselman, who is one of the wonderful hosts on 100 Huntley Street. And we are here in the midst of this pandemic.
Yeah.
COVID-19, and I've been making a few videos with some of my friends about what we're seeing, what we're experiencing, and I guess what I wanted to get a sense about what your experience has been. If you could, some of the people on my channel might be new to you, so a little bit about yourself, where you are in the world, what you're passionate about, and what you're seeing, particularly these days.
Well, it's good to be with you, even if it's 3,480 kilometers away. I looked it up the other day. Yeah, Greg Musselman's my name. I co-hosting 100 Huntley Street, done that for the last 3 years. But for the last 20 years, I've worked with a ministry called the Voice of the Martyrs and have traveled all over the world documenting stories of Christians that are persecuted for their faith. And then I've spoken in a lot of churches in Canada and around the world. It's been an amazing experience. Meeting people that are, willing to pay the price and following Jesus. And so that's probably my passion for ministry, but also working at 100 Huntley Street. It's given me a voice in Canada to be able to talk about persecuted Christians and what's going on. And then also, meeting great people like you and others in a variety of other things that I think are very important to people and sharing the message of God's love. Yeah, Alberta is where I live, St. Albert, just outside of Edmonton. I've been here for a number of years, got 4 kids, a couple of grandchildren now.
Hmm.
So this has been a interesting experience because when everything's, got shut down, just a few days before that, I was supposed to be going on a Holy Land tour with a bunch of people through 100 Huntley Street, along with Cheryl Weber, one of my co-hosts, and that got shut down. And also after that trip, I was supposed to go into Turkey and meet with Iranian Christians, refugees in Turkey that are suffering for their faith, and in documenting stories and then helping them out in practical ways. And then all my speaking engagements when I got home have been canceled. So it's been a very interesting experience. I mean, I must admit, I'm loving being at home with my family. All that has been great, but
Right.
it's been such a disruption in terms of things that I'm used to doing. I'm having a new normal right now, Andrew.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the case for everyone, a new normal. And for many of us, it is bringing the blessing of more time with each other, with more time with our families. And I'm now like a full-time at-home dad because both of my girls, they're 6 and 3, and they're home, doing homeschooling virtually and trying to figure out how this, life is going to be for the next little while. But I'm very curious. Are you in touch with people still around the world through Voice of the Martyr? And how is COVID impacting people in that dynamic where there is persecution? And, does it change anything?
Yeah, I mean, I've got friends, and like my wife said, do you have a friend in every country? I said, no, but every continent, I think, except maybe Antarctica. But, the beautiful thing about social media and Facebook and Instagram and these kinds of things is you are able to keep in touch with people. The challenge, though, is that you are exposed to many people suffering. One of the things that we're following right now with the Voice of the Martyrs is situation that's going on for Christians and other minority groups. And say if you're in India, if you are not Hindu, then you find it difficult in some parts of the country. So Christians already are under pressure in places like India and Pakistan. And we are hearing the stories now that aid is actually being withheld to Christians because they're in the same situation we are. There's isolation going on, they can't work, and they don't have the social net that we do here in Canada.
Mm.
We've got a government that's saying, hey, we're going to help you out, we're going to get you through this. We've got a good medical system, even though it's of course being pushed to the limits right now.
Right.
But in Pakistan, India, or friends in Ethiopia, and in fact, a very close friend of mine there, and he just saying, if this thing breaks out there, it's going to be horrendous because people aren't practicing social distancing. They're still close, and restaurants and everybody's, close up, they're still playing sports and all that. And so there's a lot of concern. And, so getting emails and, and through Messenger and saying, hey, we need help. Can you help us? And so that's a challenge. Many of these people I don't really know through Facebook, they've a friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing. And so the needs are great. And it is heartbreaking. And I know even for Voice of the Martyrs, we want to help as much as we can, but also what's happening is the giving is down. I mean, we haven't seen totally what things look like at Voice of the Martyrs, but many churches and or Christian organizations and other organizations, the giving is down. So even for the projects we are committed to right now, we're finding it, there's going to be some challenges there, but definitely this is impacting, parts of the world where it is very, very hard for them to survive. I mean, it was already difficult. If you can imagine being a Christian in a country like Pakistan, where there's less than 2% Christian there, already there was already such pressure. And now you put in a situation where you need food and help. And they're saying, okay, we'll give you food, but you have to convert to Islam. And so these are very real situations, and it's heartbreaking. And to be honest, I feel a little overwhelmed at times, Andrew, because of that.
That was my next question. Like, I've always admired you and everyone in that ministry. How do you stay encouraged? How do you deal with the overwhelm?
Yeah, that's. I mean, actually, I've been kind of bringing that to our team at 100 Huntley Street Crossroads, and also with the people that I work with at Voice of the Martyrs, saying, how do we discern, who do we help, and everybody's in need, and trying to figure out how we're going to do that. I mean, with Voice of the Martyrs, our mandate is to the persecuted church. So for me, rather than getting it to like all over the map and who I can and cannot help, saying, okay, our mandate with Voice of the Martyrs is to help Christians that are persecuted. And if the persecution is increasing because of the situation with the coronavirus and being, withheld of aid, okay, we can focus on that and how can we help? And I mean, I've said it for years in terms of, whether it's preaching or whatever, in talking to people, saying, we can only do what God has asked us to do. And I have to remember, Jesus said, I only do what I see the Father doing. And I have to remember that for myself, that I can only do what God is asking me to do. And then I certainly will pray with them. And as I feel like a prompting of the Lord to help in a financial way or practical way, then I want to do it. I think also too, what I'm trying to do is, spend, time in the Word every day in the Bible, of course, and taking prayer walks. I'm a cyclist, but we still have snow on the ground out here in Alberta.
Wow.
And more is coming tonight, apparently. But I'm taking, the dog. The dog actually is really benefiting because getting long walks. But just trying to, stay positive in that sense. But there's no question. At times, I just feel that incredible weight, and just trying to, okay, Lord, I can't do everything, but what can I do?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. The focus, sometimes narrowing the focus helps us to intensify what we have to offer. It's
Right.
very difficult to help everyone. Yeah, and I'm also appreciative of the fact that giving is something that we can do. I think figuring out what we can do, and focusing on that as opposed to what we can't do, I think that's important as well. Yeah, you nailed a number of things, like staying in the Word, staying connected to God. I think that's definitely good. One of the things that I do, and I'm encouraging people to do, I'm actually doing this program called 7 Days with Christian dads, husbands, fathers, and for 7 days straight, we work through a number of different focuses, and one of them is seeing the opportunity. And I think sometimes when we get so discouraged with the reality of people's experiences, we sometimes don't see the opportunity in the middle of the struggle and of the challenge. And I know we're doing this live and you're on the spot, but
No, it's okay.
in moments of persecution, is there even an opportunity for those being persecuted and those who are not experiencing that persecution? What's the opportunity there?
Well, one of the things that what I love, what we do with Voice of the Martyrs, is it's not about us. It's, obviously it's about Jesus and the kingdom of God, but we want to get resources into the persecuted church. Whether it's, say, a village in place in Sri Lanka or Pakistan up in the north, where the Taliban is very strong up there, is to get resources into their hands so that they can, extend the love of Jesus in practical ways, helping them out. So when things are really tense, and and this is a situation that's unique because it affects everybody in the whole world, but if believers are able to then help their neighbors who are struggling, maybe to get the next meal, or or whatever, how it could be a health issue, things like that, that Christians can come alongside them and say, hey, we'll help you. And hey, we've been persecuting you. Why would you want to help us now? Or, we have treated you poorly. Well, Jesus tells us that we're to do good. I mean, you could think in the back of your head, love your neighbor, love your enemies, but that's just a part about, serving Jesus. So that's been the thing that has, been very encouraging and inspirational to me over the years, is when I see Christians in places like Nigeria. And I remember I was there a couple of years ago and interviewing these two widows, and one of the ladies was telling me that these Fulani herdsmen, they're Muslim people, and kind of nomads, and they had raided this village and killed many people. And then there was this horrible rainstorm, and these people had to flee. And one of the widows actually invited these people into her home, of that troop. Now, they don't know if it was the exact people that were involved in the looting of the village, but they still welcomed them in. And she said to me, that's how I knew that I'd forgiven, that, and loving our enemies. So in the middle of the persecution, in the middle of desperation, we still need to step up. I know the response is, oh, I'm going to look after me and my family. And then as a dad, as a husband, and now a grandfather, my family, of course, is my first line of, commitment. But then it's also my neighbors, and then the broader, community of people that are suffering, that we can help them. And I know that's some of the things that we're looking at right now with Voice of the Martyrs, is to be able to get resources into the hands of those that are suffering, so they can extend the love of Jesus in a practical way.
I definitely appreciate that story, and it reminds me of others that I've heard, where God empowers people to forgive and to share, and it blows people's minds. It's beyond, it's beyond what we would do in and of our own strength.
Sure,
And
yeah, true.
I appreciate that as an opportunity. We have the opportunity to give to others. We have the opportunity to love others. We have the opportunity to pray for others. And, even those of us who are suffering, even in our suffering, there are opportunities. And you and I have talked about this before, but in my own experiences of challenges, and it really helps me to appreciate what other people in the world on some level are experiencing. So it's an opportunity for intercession as well. We can
Yes.
pray. We can pray with greater fervence when we know what the concerns are, when we know what the pain is. So I definitely want to encourage you to keep going, doing what you do. I appreciate you. I respect you so much. And I'll double back and include your details below, so that when people watch this, they know how to give, and how to connect, and how to support. Yeah, so I appreciate you jumping on the video with me. And I again, thanks so much for joining me. And those of you who are watching, please send an encouraging note to myself, to Greg, to whoever you can, because these are the days where we can be a source of encouragement, and really lift others up too. Let's look for those opportunities, as they may be hidden in tragedy, or in tough times, but there are always opportunities, and we can find them, and we can make use of them. So we'll talk again soon. Greg, again, thanks. And thanks for watching. Until we connect next, continue to learn, heal, and grow.